There we go. There we go. 1 second, and there we go. Welcome, everyone to Toby's Talking Grounds episode number 4. We have had a short break of 7 months, and now we're back. And today I'm joined by none other than T-Bone and Sixy. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Hey.
Thank you so
Is
much
it
for
really?
for
And you
joining in. For joining in, it's amazing to have you guys here. And as you guys all know, we have some subjects to talk about today. But before we go into that, I want to give you guys, the two of you, a chance to introduce yourself. So, Sixty, since you're on my left on the screen, why don't we start with you? Who are you? And your microphone is muted.
Hear me now?
Yes.
I was using the wrong button. Yeah, I'm Sigsy. Currently playing for Rage Gaming in the PEL. That's pretty much all there is to it.
There you go. Pretty straightforward. I like it. And what about you, T-Bone? Any words on who you are?
Well, I'm T-Bone, as the screen says, and playing for Zuktum Nam in Contenders right now.
Mm-hmm. Great of
Yep.
you guys to be taking place. But before we get started, really, I want to say sorry for my microphone quality. I don't know. I feel like I forgot my microphone at the other hotel that I was at. So you're gonna have to live with this. But no, why not go straight into it? Subject number 1 of the day is the current meta, and as we said before, Sixy is playing a PO. T-Bone and Contenders, two very great guys. And again, Sixy, you first. What's your take on what's happening in the current meta? You're muted again.
Okay. We good now, okay.
Yes, we are indeed.
No, I was just saying, like, you might as well just call it the nade meta. 'Cause that's what it is
Yeah.
right now.
That's what I figured.
I just think, yeah, that's just what it is right now. It's most of the team fights. I'd say at least 90% of the team fights are won with whoever throws the best nades. At least most of their like 4v4 at the moment.
I was wondering, one thing is that I mean, I don't know if you necessarily strategize around just nades, but do you also take it into account when you engage fights? Do you spread out more than you normally would, or how does it affect the way that you kind of go about your fighting?
But you kind of know if you're about to take a team fight, you already know the first thing that's going to happen, depending on which position you're in. The nades are going to start coming flying, right? So you don't want to be stacked on each other. You don't want to have like two people right next to each other. You want to spread out a little bit because it's inevitable that it's going to happen. Like most teams in this meta will engage if they get an initial knock. That's when they start throwing all their nades. They'll throw like if they've got like 6 or 7 nades, they'll just throw them. And if they can get one more knock off the initial knock, then that's pretty much that team fight done, unless someone can like clutch up.
And I feel like I might know the answer to this question, but is this something you appreciate, or is it something you'd rather that was not a thing?
Oh, I mean, of course, I'd rather it not be a thing because at the end of the day, I'd rather PUBG be more a skill-based game, right? So you could have, for example, one team they know a general like direction of where a team is, and then they just throw one like nade, which they don't really know where they're throwing it. They're just throwing it in direction of the shots, and they get 2 knocks with it. Like right there, that's to me, it's not really a skill. It's just throwing a nade in a direction and luckily getting two knocks, and that changes the course of a fight like completely. I mean,
So it's not necessarily about how well you position yourself. It's more about whether you're fortunate with the nades or not.
yeah, that's how it is right now.
Makes sense. What about you, T-Bone? Any takes on the current meta? You can join in on the nade discussion as well if you want to.
I mean, it is basically nades, right? That's the king right now. It's pretty easy. I mean, in Contender, I showed a lot. Just fucking launch a nade and you knock 2-3 guys, and it's like, yeah, no problem. You win the fight because of it. But at the same time, if nades were maybe designed a little bit better, then it would be fine. Because sometimes right now they can knock you from super far, and then it lands on top of you, and they don't knock you, and it's really weird how nades are working right now.
Loving that Chris is in the chat here as well. You can see him in the background over there behind Sixy. No, it makes sense. I mean, now that we talk about the nades, let's stick to them for a while. What you said about the blast radius, T-Bone, but what do you guys think could be done to change the meta the way it is as far as nades go?
There's a lot of things really. Like you could make a big list of things that they could do.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen like a few good takes on it. I know a lot of people just kind of want it to be limited to kind of how it is in CS, where it's like you get a nade, you get a smoke, you get a molly, and you get a flashbang. Or you could have 2 flashbangs and sacrifice not having a molly, you know, some stuff like that, where you can only really grab 1 or 2 nades. And I don't know if that should be limited to like the utility belt, or, you know, if it shouldn't really take up inventory space, but it should be on your utility belt or something like that.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
That's the one that I've seen that I've kind of been like, okay, that makes sense. I think there should also be a nerf on top of it, though, because even if you only have like 4 nades per team, the blast radius right now is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like it really is like insane, like how much damage 1 nade can do and the radius that it does it in. So that's my take on it. I do think there should be a nerf, but I also think there should be a limit in terms of like inventory.
So yeah, okay. So nerf to the nade themselves, and also not be allowed to just spam them for days. What about you, T-Bone? What's your hot take on fixing the current status of nades being thrown all over the place?
Right now, I think the best solution would literally to be cap it at like 2 nades.
2?
Yeah.
Does it also go for smokes? So you can only have 2 smokes, or is that unlimited?
Unlimited smokes, unlimited mollies, unlimited flashbangs, but only 2 nades. That's how I think it should be, to be honest. Because I don't know, with smokes you can make seriously like awesome plays. Is really, I feel like it's really good to
we've
watch.
seen that time and time again. Makes sense.
I agree.
But then obviously nades, you know, you see some people running around with 9 nades, and it's like, come on, like. Gaxi is the prime example of this. Yeah, I've seen him a few times, but it's a good play, you know. Like, you play with 9 nades, you're guaranteed to get a few kills. You see someone, you launch a few nades at him, it's super easy to get them flushes. So it's the way the game should be played right now. I feel like so.
Yeah.
Do you feel that the current point system it makes you do it even more? Because if kills weren't worth as much, would you prioritize the utility or like the inventory space for nades, or would you maybe do it for something else?
I think it'd still be the same.
Okay.
I think it's the same.
It's just the power of the nade in a team fight.
Yeah, it's just because you can carry 9 of them, and if you have 4 guys with 8, 9 nades, then you can throw 3 each on each team, and you can just literally wipe a whole area, and they literally can't sit anywhere near it. They're all dead.
Makes sense. So, yeah, it's one of those. I mean, to me, and when I see it, from both from a casting perspective, but also from a viewing perspective, it's one of those. I don't want to call it pussying out, but it's like you don't dare to peek, so you'll just throw it over the roof, and then hopefully things will go your way. Like as you said earlier, Six, you don't really know if it's gonna land or not, because you might not even have seen the guy. It's just one of those, maybe he's over there, whoo, and then you get and it can mess it up so easily for the other team, because that's to me the worst thing. It's one of those, I want to see the best PUBG from the team. So equally when we get those circles that are just completely upside down and the viewers love it, I'm like, I feel so bad for the players that are in those situations, because I know how hard they can be. But for this, I mean, you can have the perfect position, you can make the perfect play, and then you get a nade thrown in from like 100 meters jump throw miles away, and you're like, what the hell am I, like, what can I take away from this and improve my play? Just not be there at that time, I guess.
I think that's fine. I think like having 1 or 2 nades and you skillfully throw them, I think it's fine in my eyes, because there's a few times that people should be paying attention, they don't, and you manage to cook a nice nade on top of it.
That makes sense.
So I think that's fine.
Do you still think, I mean, you talk about nerf, do you still think that the nade should be able to one-shot people? I heard some people say that it should only be able to do 99 damage and stuff like that.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it, but to me they're buggy. If they was like, if they're like the same damage, or if they're this far away, it does this much damage, etc., and it's perfect every time, then it'd be fine. But I've thrown nades on top of people, it's landed literally like touching them, and it doesn't kill them. And then other times I'm like 10 meters away from a nade and it'll one-shot me out of nowhere. It feels super weird.
There's a lot of like terrain, I think, in the map, and especially in certain buildings. If you know like the big 1-story yellow, I think in the toilet, I think there's like an area there. If a nade goes in there and you're behind like a certain object, it should knock you, but it doesn't.
Yeah, there's some
still like a lot of things. It's pretty stupid.
Yeah, there are some really small optics that can prevent a whole lot of damage. We've seen that many times. I think that was fixed pretty quickly, but I think it was on Miramar at one point where I think it was Waggy Jaggy put up a video where he throws a nade just down behind one of those like small speed signs, and then he goes on the other side and takes no damage. That's obviously something that would need a sort of fix. But speaking of the current meta, if we just take it away from the nades a bit, I mean, T-Bone, you're pretty you're probably the only player right now, at least in contenders. And 60, I don't know how much contenders you get to watch, but T-Bone has kind of made a name for himself in doing a ton of damage every game and just not get any kills. It's become a T-Bone syndrome.
That's T-Bone all along. Dude. That's his thing, dude. Like when we play together, when we used to play together, like faced it, dude. You'd always get like over 1k, 2k damage, but the kills were always slacking.
I'm actually 4th on kills in our group, Toby.
I know you've performed. I know you've been able to pick up some of them. I was just wondering for you, T-Bone, is that a thing where is it because you go aggressive and can flush people, or is it because of the position that you're in? You just can't. I mean, of course you'll shoot at targets if you see them, but is it because of how you play as a team, or how does that sort of like how do you get to do so much damage?
I just hit all my shots. That's literally it.
Oh, that's the thing. Okay,
that's the key. Like, if you hit your shots. Now, obviously, with the team, I feel like we position ourselves pretty good, so I get a lot of freedom in doing decent amount of damage. I wouldn't say I ADR farm at all. I really don't. And if you watch contenders, it's pretty obvious that I don't ADR farm. But like, I would shoot someone 3-4 times and they'd get knocked by someone else in my team or someone in a different team, and then maybe I don't just have the angle to flush. You know, that's happened a lot of times, and that's partly my bad. Maybe I should have killed him a little bit earlier.
Is that something? Is that something that frustrates a player? Like, one thing is happening once in a game, sure, but I mean, we are playing a league where kills are extremely valuable as far as points, and if it happens multiple times a game, doesn't that become like a frustration?
It can frustrate you a little bit, but then I just feel like that's something. I'm new on the team, so maybe we need to, fix that a little bit. Maybe we just need to all look at the kill and just insta flush it, when it's available. Because there's been a few times like that when maybe one person isn't paying attention or 2 people, and I turn around, you got to insta flush. If not, someone else steals it from someone else, and that's 1 point lost. So
yeah. And time again, we've seen how much 1 point can make a difference. I think like in all leagues up until this point, there's always been that 1 point or 2 point difference, right? And that could be, I mean, every single kill could be that difference maker. What about you, 60? Any takes on the current point system and how I mean the kills and sort of maybe sometimes overcommitting for a flush can seem worth it, but then maybe get you killed? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure like a lot of teams do get punished for it. I know there's a lot of scenarios where you get a knock and you just like that's 1 point and you just overcommit for it. You get donked by Kana and you're just done. Like it happens. But I think I don't know, in this point system in particular, I think from what I've witnessed so far, it's more if you don't get the zone. What I've seen from Liquid anyway, but when you don't get the zone, you just go all out for kills at that point, because I think the positioning at the moment of some teams is so center heavy that when you get a hardship like all the way away from you, like people just like, okay, we're not going to get in a good position to win this game, we're just going to go all out for kills, and that works for a lot of teams, to be honest.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, why not try and see if you can get something off it if you can't get to go inside the circle anyway. Yeah. No, we can like kind of transition over to the whole new player thing, because now you've both been talking about how T-Bone, you get an angle on someone and the communication might not be there to get the flush. And I don't know for you, 60, I mean, joining a new team, now there was a bit more of a roster change up in your case than with T-Bone, but if we start off with you, how does it, I mean, first of all, congratulations on being PL. That's a pretty huge accomplishment for any player, so congrats on that. And how does it feel, the first week here?
I'd say that the first day was a bit of a struggle to kind of like get used to obviously being online again. I mean, I was there for Kickoff Cup with Stella, but at the same time it was like it still feels a bit weird. Second day I got a lot more comfortable. We got that win and I was just like feeling a lot better. Like my setup was feeling a lot better, because like I'm not gonna lie, the chairs at PL, I don't they don't go high enough. So like I feel like I'm so low down that it's like it feels weird for me. So I've like adjusted my chair here to kind of like compensate for that, and I'm getting used to it. But yeah, no, in terms of playing with the new team, it's like, of course it's a change. I feel like in my previous teams I've always had to like adapt to how they want to play, and this team, it feels like is a lot more like structured, and I feel like I have to play a lot more around my teammates, and I can't really overcommit too much. I can't like do sort of a play that I think's going to be good, and then it's if the IGL is like, yeah, no, it's not. You should just do this instead. I just got to follow that call and just go with it. Whereas back in Stella, it was like I could make more freedom plays, I guess I could say, and a lot of the times, like sometimes it did work out, and sometimes it was bad, but I was at least able to make that play that I wanted to do.
Do you feel that that's better, or like I said, do you like the structure more, or would you?
I don't know. It's 50-50 really for me. I played with a lot of like structured playstyles in the past, and a lot more freedom based playstyles. Both are good. I think I like being able to do my own thing, and like I think it gives me a lot more confidence, and I think that kind of showed in Contenders. But I don't know, like it's still like really early. Like playstyle is always like adjusting. Like,
Yeah,
I know
course.
we need to make like a lot more adjustments after the first week for sure. I think we're definitely slacking in timing and positioning at the moment.
I mean, there's, what is it, 96 games to play, so it's not like you won't have room to
Yeah.
make any adjustments.
I
Plenty.
feel like that's what the first week's kind of for in PL. It's kind of just like seeing what the teams are actually doing, like the whole like reciprocity vitality thing. I know for Wrangle at least, we're kind of used to reciprocity being a team for millicircles that would go to the cliffs by the barns. Like they'd go from pool apps, they'd go straight to the cliffs, and they'd sit there. But now, because of this whole vitality situation, they've actually moved, and the whole cliff like area is free. So we're like normally trying to go to the East Bridge for millicircles, and then we kind of just realized, is really going for the East Bridge that worth it when we can actually just play pretty freely on the north side, like by the barn. So there's a lot of different like things we've been talking about, and adjustments probably going to happen for sure. And I'm sure that's the same for a lot of other teams as well. So probably going to see a lot of adjustments coming into the second week at least.
Yeah. Good to know. Good to know. What about you, T-Bone? Sukta and Nam, you talked about some communication things, but how is it overall to be joining forces with a new team?
For me, very good, very good. I mean, the first day of Contender, like I didn't really know exactly where I fit in. But after that, I mean, the boys make it super easy for me to play, really, and I think I fit in pretty well now. Honestly,
Oh, sorry. Continue.
I was gonna say, like before Contender started, I literally played maybe one, 2, 3 games with them, or days with them, I'd say, because obviously they took Erky to Kickoff Cup as his last event. So jumping in, it was a little bit odd, but I think we're good. I think we got good synergy there, really.
What have they done to? I mean, if they have done anything to sort of, what you can say, filter you in with the team, or is it more of they do their thing and then you just kind of have to catch on?
Well, I'm a firm believer in like synergy as being a baseline to any team, right? So when I played with them originally, it sort of instantly clicked. Obviously, I didn't have the competitive side down, but as a players with them, it felt like I clicked already. So it was just more getting in the mindset of, all right, we're playing competitive now. This is how we're going to do, because everything changes a little bit. People more focused, people like the comms a little bit better, different, etc. And yeah, it's been fine.
And is there like, do you feel like you have any room to, as the new guy kind of on the team, to if you come up with a suggestion or whatever the situation may be, that they'll listen to it, or say, oh, this is the new guy, we'll just do whatever we do because we're kind of the team and you're just the add-on?
Yeah, of course they listen to me.
That's good. That's good. Just
it's good. They give me obviously a lot of freedom. Our team works more on everyone has their own sort of freedom, but don't do stuff stupidly. Basically, don't be an idiot. But yeah, you have a lot of freedom to play how you sort. Yeah,
makes sense. Now 60, with you being in Pro League and all that kind of, not kind of, but that being your I guess main what do you say, thing to do from you wake up till you go to bed. How has your kind of your day to day, from having gone from being on Contenders and living at home to moving into Berlin and playing at the studio there? How has the day-to-day kind of changed for you?
Yeah, it's a lot different. I've got a lot more of a, I guess, early schedule now.
Mm-hmm.
Because back at home, I had a pretty bad like NA schedule. Like I'd be waking up at like 3 p.m. Going to bed at like 5 6 a.m. Like that was like the standard thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
But since I've got here, I think the first like week or two I was like really ill. Like I had fever or something. But like gradually going on, like this past 2 weeks, I've been getting up around like 9 o'clock in the morning. I generally go straight to the gym around 10 o'clock. I'll eat something, go to the gym at 10, come back around 11, chill for a little bit, eat, and then get on, start doing face it or whatever. And then we hit scrims at 7. That's normally the day for us. But on a PL day, we sort of do the same thing. I'll still go to the gym and do all that other stuff, but we'll do like a little bit more like mental stuff, like before we actually go and play. So we'll do. We have a mental coach called James, and he does a lot of like negative visualization, where you kind of just like you all sit together, you kind of go through in your head like a game, and you kind of just like think about the game going bad, and thinking about how that game's going bad, what happened, and what the mentality is like after that game, and just trying to like block it out. Don't get too tilted, don't get too triggered, and just go from there. And it has helped a lot, and we've been doing a lot of like meditation and stuff like that, which I've never actually personally done before, and it's actually been pretty good. Not gonna lie, like I never really thought of doing it in the past. I was like kind of like, it's like whatever. I don't think I really do meditate. It's helped a lot, and to be honest, like since I've been here, I feel like I've had like a lot more energy throughout the days. Like my head's been a lot more like clear. I did have like a lot of like anxiety problems and stuff like that back at home, and it's really like cleared up since I've been here. I mean, I'm always around people, I'm always like socializing and talking to everyone, so it's like it's helped me like a bunch since I've been here. So yeah, I mean, Berlin life is definitely good so far.
Life of a pro gamer. Do you feel like just kind of like I talked to T-Bone, do you feel that there's any I guess you can say additional pressure on you being one of the new players, that you have to perform extra well now that first of all, I mean, you're a contenders player coming into Pro League, and you know all this. Do you feel any added sort of pressure on your shoulders, or it's just one of those kind of things?
Not really. Of course, it's always in the back of your mind, like you have to perform, you have to, you know, you don't want to be slacking or making any bad mistakes, but at the same time, it's like, you know, you're in Pro League for a reason, and you've got to show that. And it's just, once you're in the game, you just don't think of anything else. You just got to perform.
Makes perfect sense.
That's just how it is. Yeah.
What about you, T-Bone? Do you have any pressure on you, kind of being the newly added on the team, or is it more just kind of daily life?
I don't personally feel any pressure. I mean, obviously I put a little bit of pressure on myself because I want to perform to the highest standard I can. Obviously, because I want to make it to Pro League this split or whatever. So other than that, no pressure from my team, no pressure from anything else. It's just I've got a lot of confidence in my team, so for me it's fine.
It's good to hear. Good to hear. Now that we're at it, I mean, we're talking about being the new player on the team. What's your, if you look back at you guys having joined new teams and stuff, if there's any one advice you could give to a guy that gets a chance to play with a team that might be, I don't know, higher ranked than what he's been playing before, or you know, kind of know what I mean, that team that's maybe more of a name than what you're coming from, what would one thing that you would like advise to them be? T-Bone, you can start with this one if you have any.
The biggest thing for me, which I feel a lot of players like lose, is just you got to stay hungry at all times. You got to want to improve yourself, and not only improve yourself, but aim to improve your teammates, because when they improve, you improve. It's just like that's the best advice anyone can give in PUBG or any sort of competitive game. Improve yourself, aim to improve your teammates, and always stay like keep that hunger. Like that's it. That's all there is to it.
And do you have any ways that you do like go about this? Because I know that you're a very motivated player and all, but do you have any specific things you do to sort of encourage, or is it just part of what do you say, a part of who you are in a way?
I haven't always had it, you know. In former teams, it took a little bit of time to really develop in my mind. You know, maybe I need to start, you know, helping myself and helping my teammates. But I don't know. It's something that you have to learn for yourself, really, and something that you gotta realize that you really want, and you gotta put everything into it.
Yeah, I
Because for
respect
me, it's a dream. You know, if to play in pro league for a season or to play in the top team is like my dream since been a little kid. So I gotta put everything into it. You know, so.
Makes sense. Makes sense. What about you, Sixty? Any advice for the newcomers out there?
Yeah, I think T-Bone nailed it on the head there. Like, you just got to be really hungry for it. You've got to just, when things get rough, when things get like bad, you've just got to like keep the mentality there. Don't have like negative thoughts all the time. Don't think in your head like, oh, this is going really bad. Like that sort of stuff. You just got to kind of block it out. And I know it's hard. Like some people, it's just like hard to block out like negative attitude and stuff like that. But if you can get past that, it's not only going to help yourself, but it's going to help your team. And yeah, I think that's just it in general. Just you've got to be hungry, you've got to want it, and just got to be motivated all the time and just keep going.
Yeah, makes sense. And that kind of leads into the, I guess we can tell the next subject on things, your expectations for this phase. Because I mean, I've kind of been, at least for contenders teams, I can tell T-Bones that the phase 2 is to me the phase to do well. Because I mean, first of all, phase 1 you couldn't qualify for PEL, but now that you can qualify for phase 3 in PEL, that'll also give you a chance or a shot at the like the big global event in the end of the year. But do you have any like what's your expectations, Six? Of course, everyone wants to win, but do you have any sort of in depths on it?
Or for our team.
Or just for you? I mean, for you, for the team in general, could be long term, short term, whatever.
Well, I think the short term plan is just to kind of get some sort of structure going, get like a better idea of all the other teams. And I know Astro is really good for knowledge on other teams, really good for map knowledge and stuff like that. But we need to start like finding something that works for us consistently. And obviously that will work in the long term as well. Like we need to start finding that consistency. And for us at the moment, I think we're struggling with our positioning. I think rotations and timing is our issue right now. We have a few little like communication issues, but I think once we put ourselves in a good position, like in a like central spot, and we can start like taking fights, I think we're a really really good like strong fighting team, and we can beat any of these teams like in a fight. But it's just putting ourselves in that in the positions to fight. Like at the moment is our biggest issue. So I think that's something that is like key to work on right now for us.
Yeah, I mean, you also have wins already, right? If I don't remember wrong, in phase 1, phase 2. So I mean, clearly you're up there with the guys and a good chance at giving a crack at it. What about you, T-Bone? Any expectations for you and the team?
Expectations. It's more goals for me, I would say. Like, obviously, I feel like we are good enough to qualify for Pro League. For Split 3 or Phase 3, whatever you want to call it. The main goal for me is obviously getting to that LAN and then just proving. It's more proving to everyone else that, you know, we're good enough. I think a lot of people do think we're good, but I mean, it's my personal motivation a lot of times to prove everyone else that, you know, I'm actually a really good player. I deserve to be in PL. So I'm going to do my best to get there.
That's fair.
We got some work to do on Miramar. But other than that, you know, some new team things, like me being in the team, still some stuff to work out with that. But other than that.
Yeah. Now, you talked about continuously progressing and always improving, and a chance you get in 6. You talked a little about when you have the mental coach available and you do some meditation, and of course you scrim a lot. But T-Bone, do you have anything outside of just, I mean, quotation mark, just playing PUBG that you do to sort of stay ahead of the game?
I go to the gym, and for me, going to the gym, weightlifting it helps me a lot. Honestly, I mean, lets your frustrations out, gives you time a little bit to think. Yeah, that is it for me.
Yeah, T-Bone got me into the gym a lot more, and I've been sticking to it. So
there you go.
He's right. Like honestly, like if you go to the gym and you stick to like a consistent schedule, it makes you feel like so much better throughout the day. And I honestly feel like I play better when like the day I've been to the gym, I feel like I play better, like at least 50%.
So do your workouts, kids. That's the
Yes, that's the key.
that's the motivational. Like to hear it. Like to hear it. We kind of wrapped over the subjects pretty quickly. I don't mind that. I wasn't expecting this to be one of those 1 or 2 hour talks. But if you, do you ever have anything that is going on in the current PUBG scene, or things you're looking forward to, things you're not looking forward to, that you feel like would be discussable? Wait, have you hired a cleaning lady in the background? Oh no,
Yeah,
that's Minox.
that's our maid. Sorry, she'll be gone soon.
What can we talk about? I mean, we could talk about the current. The guns for me is a little bit weird right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like there's certain. I don't know. I feel like there's certain guns in the game still that don't really make too much sense.
Can you elaborate on that?
Right, like for example, I feel like there needs to be more of a place for maybe SMGs, or
Yeah.
more of a place for a molly, or more of a place for maybe not the brill, because the brill is super strong if you get good at it, but
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. You know, the SMG. I would love to have like people actually use SMGs because they're super powerful close range or something. But maybe that's just me.
I mean, I know this is a
Yeah.
different game, but I'm commentating a lot of PUBG Mobile lately, and believe me, they run around with UMPs and Uzis all the time. I'm not sure exactly how or why it's working, but it is for them. So, yeah, it's what were you about to say, Cesar?
Yeah, no, I agree. I maybe think that SMGs could actually be used, but I feel like people just don't really want to switch from what they're
maybe.
doing right now. Like, I think if you take a Vector into a close range fight, you're gonna actually destroy people. Like, the Vector is really strong right now, and I do think obviously they could be a little bit stronger, so that people actually kind of want to use them. But I don't know. I think in terms of DMRs and snipers at the moment, I think they're in a good state. I guess I could say. I think the ball patch and everything about it was good. Obviously, reverting the how strong the arm was a good idea. So that was pretty bad. Yeah, I'm just like, I'm looking forward to seeing what PUBG decide they want to add, like in terms of guns, because I know they're definitely going to start adding more guns like soon. It just depends like which guns they start to add. I'd like to see the MP5K being like a Wrangler and Miramar as well. I really do like that SMG, and I don't see why it's only a Vikendi only thing.
No, I can agree. It's a little strange to me as well. Yeah, that's what I was kind of going in about. How could you see the SMG? I mean, now you talk about real close range for the Vector, for example, but could you see some of the other SMGs be like? Could you come up with a scenario where SMG could, if not be better, but then at least be equal to an AR?
I mean, you could have it have just a higher rate of fire, right? So you're gonna beat them out, and it already has higher limb like multiplier, right? So if you hit them in the arms or legs, it does like super a lot of damage. So I don't know. It's like I would like to see sometimes more breaches. You know, you have one guy with an SMG just breach a compound first. You blast in an SMG versus for example, an M4 or something. The SMG, if he gets the first shot, he's gonna win. But right now, it doesn't feel like that.
Also, it's one of those things where if you don't get into that situation, then you would, like in all the other fights you will have to take throughout that game, you might always want to prefer. I think that's the case, right? Because you have, like, if you have, let's say, 5 fights over a game and only one of them is that one fight where you would win with the SMG, then you would rather have the 4 fights guaranteed with the AR, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
That's to me at least the way that the competitive, I guess I don't know if you say meta, but the way competitive games are fought, at least in the European and American scene right now, that there just isn't a lot of room for the SMG because it's too situational in a way.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know. I think the game's in a really good place right now. I think it's improved to the point at the minute that it's in a super nice place. Obviously, I'd like to see certain changes to make the game look better from an observing point of view, etc. Better FPS, that. But the game in general, just playing it, for me, it feels super good. So I think they've done a really good job on it.
Yeah, I can only agree. There's been improvements across the board for a long time now. If we go back to a little bit about the meta discussion, because now we talked about the nades and guns and stuff too, but do you feel like, because you kind of elaborate, like went on breaching, and I don't know, I feel like teams, maybe it's because of the point system being structured the way that it is, but teams are way more daring now than what we've seen them be before.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, that like so it's down to the point system, 100%. Like especially with people split compounds like 2-2. If you know that there's a team that's split and it's a good position in a circle, you're most likely going to try and aggress on them and crash them. And if you can win out on that 4v2, then you've got a really good position in a circle and you've got yourself 2 points. Like it's very worth it to huge compounds right now. So I think I would say if it's like a full team in a compound, unless it's like the last resort, I don't think teams are too keen on going for a 4v4 breach. I don't think you see that very often, but it's mostly the splits that people like exploit at the moment.
And is that something you guys take into account a lot? So whenever you rotate, if you go center somewhere, you pay extra attention to see how much movement or whatever you see in the compounds, or do you kind of play around the same as you have before?
Yeah, a good example would be we had a game that ended around Radio Tower, West Side, like Everest area, and underneath Everest you've got the double whites, and obviously it's a big ridge behind the double whites. You can kind of tell pretty quickly if there's a full man team there, or if there's just 2 people there. Obviously, if there was a 4-man team, you'd see more vehicles, you'd see more like aggression around the outside of the compound, and it's something that we saw on one of the games where I think it was Windstrike did a 2-2 split. And, they ended up grouping up at the end, but we lost the fight against NIP, and I think that's one of the things we probably would have done is to exploit the 2-2 split they had and take the double whites from them, and I think they ended up winning that game. So it's a play that can win you some games, like just like going in for you know, if you see that there's 2 people in the compound, you can easily crush that, and you can easily take that from them. You might lose 1, could even lose 2 possibly, but if you can get that, the late game's going to be really good for you.
What about you, T-Bones? Any take on the whole breaching thing? I've seen you guys. I mean, I don't know. I've never thought of Suriname as a really aggressive team. I mean, at least not for center compounds. And now maybe this week has been a little different for you too, in the sense that you had a ton of circles slant on you, so you couldn't really go anywhere. But I mean, how do you play around with the point system? Any different than what we've been used to before?
It's hard because breaching's always pretty hard, right? But I mean, sometimes you got to do it, so it's something you have to practice. With the new point system, you have to be more aggressive. You have to get the kills, because you're never gonna do good just off the placement alone. You should always go for the placement, like if you've got a good place in the circle. But if the circle's like half shifts away from you, then you always got to go for kills. So, and sometimes then you just got to breach. You know, no matter if you lose 3 people and you wipe a team, it's fine. You know, you're in the circle now. Maybe you get an extra placement point, and you just bank yourself 4 points that you wouldn't have before.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, breaching's good. It's hard to do. It's really hard to practice as well, because no one's ever going to hold the compound the same 2 times in a row.
Yeah.
Like PUBG.
Yeah, that was going to be my question to it as well, because one thing is to say you have to breach sometimes, but what do you do? Like, what can you even do to practice those things?
The only way you really can practice is choosing which side you want to come from, I guess, and then having maybe smokes, practicing your smoke as your when you're driving in the car, you can launch smokes out your window, and if you can practice that, maybe smoke off at one doorway so you have one less angle to fire. Maybe that can give you the advantage, or something like that.
Is that something that you guys would ever spend time on doing, for example, like outside of tournament place, or you go on a custom server somewhere? Like we see with Counter-Strike, people practice smokes, and I know it's a very different ball game because there's a lot more variation to how things go down in PUBG. But is it something that you ever, or that you see people ever spend time on practicing, like those specific things, or
I think you can practice it, but I don't think you can practice it as in, all right, we're gonna sit outside this compound in the server ourselves and just practice launching nades from a vehicle. You can do, like, you can practice nades, like you can. I've done it in myself in training mode and in the face it or whatever, and just launch nades at certain angles and just make sure it lands. All right, this nade's going to land perfect behind this house, and that's going to clear the whole angle. Like, you can do that, and I have done that before. But practicing the breach, the only way you can practice that is just in face it. So if you really want to compound and you want to practice that, and there's people there, you can just shred it from there.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things you can do with, like you said, in CS, they practice lining up nades. I think we could actually do that in PUBG. There is, like, in terms of compounds, because there's a lot of buildings that people just kind of, when they're breaching it and they know that people in there, kind of just blindly throw nades into rooms.
Exactly.
But I feel like there's certain angles you can throw nades that you could, like, really optimize, like, the damage you do. If your teammates have given you the info where they are in the compound, but you generally don't really know how to throw a nade to get it into that room, like, that could be the difference between you winning that fight and losing it. So I think lining up nades is something that you can definitely add to practice for sure.
That's what I've been thinking too, because I mean, I'm always about trying to find that edge or what can put you that one step ahead of your opponent. And now I'm not a player, but for the teams that I've worked with before, and whether it's been longer term or really short term, it's always been about trying to do that one thing. Of course, you have to be good at the things you already are doing, but trying to find that one thing that can put you ahead of other teams. And honestly, I mean, when you're only playing 2 maps competitively, so the Sanok and the Vikendi compounds are out of the picture. And if you narrow it down, I think I counted that there are, I mean, if you just go off the building models alone, I think there's 10 or 14 different types of buildings on Erangel, and then there's a little more on Miramar. But if you always know that, for example, with Molotovs, the way that they were buffed back when they were, if you can throw 3 Molotovs from certain spots of a building and like light the entire top floor on fire, those sort of things, could that be things that could potentially, maybe not now, but like in longer term, be a thing people would practice on doing?
I think maybe not Molotovs, but I seriously think that some of the top teams that you see right now, I feel like Liquid does it a bit. Maybe FaZe, I've seen do it before, but coordinating nades is a huge thing. Now, a lot of teams right now, even in Pro League, they just launch their nades wherever. Everyone's just throwing them. They don't really know where they're going. I've seen multiple nades land on with each other, you know, in Pro League, etc. But just having a little bit of coordination, all right, I'm throwing left, right, middle, etc., and you clear the whole area with one set of nades, even in a compound, you know, that's going to be super helpful. You clear 3 angles, you only got one angle left to hold.
Exactly. I mean, if we go back to Counter-Strike real quick, that's how Astralis got that edge not too long ago. They just started saying, instead of throwing like a billion smokes and wasting a ton of flashbangs, we just send 4 or 5 nades in on the site, and then we know exactly where they can be. Right? There's no way that these guys can sit in those spots where we just hardcore naded and destroyed that area of the map. So they would always know, like, it's kind of to narrow or to minimize the different spots you have to check when you enter a building or when you breach, because as we talk about, breaching is hard enough as it is. So the easier you can make it for yourself. And I know it's extremely situational in PUBG because you never have just one opponent. You have like multiple things to worry about around you. But I would like to see that too be more of a thing that people spend some time on doing.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like you said, it's like so situational, and there's a lot of times where you'd be breaching a compound and then just you start getting third partied, and then you kind of have to like call off the breach, and then the guys in the building start, you know, coming out and aggressing on you. There's so many different scenarios. It's very rarely that you start breaching a compound and you don't get third party. Like, it's very difficult.
But is that worth it though? I mean, I know it's extremely situational, but wouldn't it be worth it to have for that one time where it becomes a viability?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so much things in PUBG that you can practice, and it's like almost endless amount of things you could practice. And, that's the good thing about PUBG. I think there's so many things that people have yet to kind of like explore when it comes to like practicing. And in terms of the maps, like I honestly think I don't think there's one team who fully knows every single square inch of Miramar.
There's 100% not at all.
That's what I think. It's like you'd have to spend thousands of hours going around every single spot in Miramar and getting that like locked in your head.
And think of the advantage it could give you.
Exactly. Like if you know a like certain area in Miramar better than another team,
Mm-hmm.
you exactly know like what ridges you can exploit, where you can go to wrap around a team completely. There's so many different things that you can practice, and yeah, I think it's just gonna keep on sort of separating teams. It shows which teams are doing the most work,
Mm.
um, which teams are kind of slacking and only kind of focusing on just playing together and playing basic on scrims, like not really doing anything else like in custom
Mm.
games or doing anything out of their way to give them an advantage.
Makes sense. Do you guys do anything? I mean, you don't have to go into specifics if you want to keep your secrets to
Mm,
yourself. But do you do anything that you feel like maybe out of the ordinary or like different to how other teams approach things to get that edge, kind of the ratio edge?
I think at the moment, though, like it's not so much like we're doing
Mm.
a lot of like scrims, faces, and stuff like that. But I think the only other thing we're doing that I think some teams may not do is the mental side of things.
Mm.
I think a lot of teams don't have that, and a lot of teams kind of just like disregard the mental side of things. And I think that's one of the most important things in PUBG for me is mentality and being able to keep a clear head and being able to kind of understand your teammates and all the other stuff like out of game as well.
Mm. Makes sense. What about you, T-Bone? Do you guys have any hidden agendas as to things you do that aren't necessarily something that other teams would look to do?
I don't know. I mean, I think we do stuff that everyone else does. You know, watch VODs, play
Mm.
individually. A lot's individual practice though, but not just playing blindly. Just
Mm.
just to say you're playing the game, but actually as you're playing the game, really just look back and think, alright, what could I have done here? How could I have played this? Because when you're playing with, for example, Faceit and you're with a mixed team, it's totally different, and it's really cool to just learn from people. Because
Yeah.
so that other person might have played this dip that you've never played before, and then you go there, and okay, now I know this. Now I've got a little bit more knowledge here.
Makes sense.
Or maybe someone launches a nade, or maybe someone does a little bunny hop onto a roof or like a little part and outplay someone. It's all stuff that you can take.
Yeah, there's always things you can learn in pretty much any given game, even public games. Weird shit can happen that can give you info that you didn't have before. I think that's kind of summing up the talk here. Now I was planning on having a little just short little Q&A. I can see questions have already been asked in the chat, so we'll take a couple of minutes to answer whatever people might want answered, and then I think we're gonna call it. I think first question coming from Mark: how important and specific is a support role in PUBG? Any of you guys can answer if you want to.
I'll start first.
Yeah, you can go.
I would say, right, it's really important in some sense to have someone what thinks of himself as a support, but isn't necessary. For example, right, in my team personally right now, I don't think anyone is really a support player and dedicates everything as like, this guy's got one job, he has to do this, nothing else, right? Everyone plays individually, everyone has freedom, but having that guy watch, alright, I'm going to watch the back. And if someone watches the back more consistently than others, it always helps, because then it frees up, some mind from the other guys. I don't need to watch the back, this person's got it. I don't think there is so much stuff as a support role, honestly. There's a scouting role, but having someone support, alright, this person's carrying all the nades, I don't think really it's a big deal. Just watching the back, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's situational. I think there's a lot of times where you might be in front of your teammates and you're not in a position to watch the back. So that's why I think there's not really generally a support role in PUBG, and not many teams adopt it, because you'd be in a situation where you decide to scout something and say, yeah, this is free, and then the other two people maybe who are already like driving will go to it, and then because you're already at the back, like you would be the one to watch the back, whereas in another scenario you might be at the front, you might be the one who's going with the vehicle, and then another teammate would be watching the back. So it's situational for me. I don't think there's really any reason to have a dedicated support player.
It can also be dangerous, right? Because imagine playing a game and you have 4 people on your team that have very specific roles. So you have one guy who's always looking behind, and therefore he's been getting good at it. But then he dies in the first rotation. Like, oh no, we cannot look behind us for the rest of the game. I mean, then you kind of screwed over that way. But I guess that kind of answered the question. Kaylee has a question here. What are your opinions? And I guess this is very team dependent. But what are your opinions on the in-game leader role and how calling works for tier 1 teams?
I personally, I'm a strong believer on this one, right? Anyone what thinks they can solo IGL in PUBG, I disagree with them.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's never going to work at top level. You're never going to be a top 5 team by solo IGLing. You're always going to need help from your teammates. That's why it's very important to have teammates that know what they're doing. They know everything about the game as much as you do, but maybe you're a little bit more level-headed. You make the overall calls, so it's super important that you need help. You're just gonna need help. You can't watch everything. You've only got 2 eyes, and everyone else in your team has 2 eyes, so that's a lot more angles they're watching. There's a lot more compounds they can see, a lot more people, a lot more info, etc. that you're not getting. So it's super important that people need to understand that you're always going to need help.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think that there is a lot of situations where the IGL can't do everything. Like, he's going to need info from his teammates that he's not going to be able to. What I do think is it's really important to have that one guy who can be confident in just making a call, or if like people are unsure of what exactly is needed to be done, is just to say, all right, this is what we're going to do, we're going to commit to it. Like, having someone like that is very important, because I think in a lot of teams you might have like a team that doesn't really have an IGL, and everyone's like feeding in ideas, but no one's actually there to kind of say, okay, this is what we're doing. But I think that's where an IGL is really important. But I do agree, like, especially late game IGLing, I think that's kind of where you need your teammates to kind of feed you information. I think early game is where you kind of need, sort of, I mean, for rotating it's kind of easy. Like, as long as you kind of know generally where you're going to rotate for the circle, that's fine. But if stuff goes south like really quick, you need that like level head who can make a really quick like response.
Kind of keep the calm in the storm, kind of. Exactly. Lipson has a question. What do you guys think of high vertical sense? Some pros use very high vert sense.
Right, so this actually stemmed, I believe, from the Asian community. Pretty sure. Because they was rocking like 1.7, 1.8, etc. up to like, I think the max is 2 or something. They was having super high sense, and they was lasering people out of cars as they drove past, like absolutely lasering at the basic global sign. So I think a lot of people use higher vert sense than the standard right now. I personally use 1.4, and I think it's helped a lot. I think having a little higher multiplier actually really helps. But again, it's all down to personal preference.
Of course.
If you use your whole mouse pad, it depends how you hold your mouse. It depends how much mouse pad you use. If you're a wrist, arm player, etc. It really does depend on your play style, your setup, how much space you have. So it's all personal preference. But having something a little bit higher than like normal or standard, I would definitely recommend.
What about you, 60?
I think it's popular now. Like, I don't think there's a lot of players that do stick with just the general 1.0 vert sense. Like, I'm on 1.5 at the moment. I think a lot of people are around, like, most people I've talked to are around that anyway. Like, they play higher than 1.2. I know I think it's like Brexco plays on like 1.8 or something. I don't know if it's changed, but I don't think I don't think I could go that high. Like, I think I tried it once. It's just like, I don't know. I think it kind of depends on your general sensitivity as well, because if you have a really low general sensitivity, but you've cranked your like vert sense all the way to 2, if you're trying to like shoot a vehicle passing, like if you move your mouse like a little bit up, it's gonna like skyrocket, but when you're like trying to move it to the side, it's like still really slow. So I think kind of need to balance it out and find what works for you. But again, like Timo said, it's all personal preference, really.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is there any sort of fallbacks on it? Like, does it have any disadvantages? Because your overall, as you said, your overall scoping becomes harder to, like, if you're just tapping all the time, look around, then whenever you go up and down, it's like much faster than when you go from side to side. But is there any other disadvantages, I guess you can say, at having a high sense in that regard? Or is it just something you would recommend to everyone?
I would recommend it to everyone. Having higher than average. I don't think there's any disadvantage to it at all.
Yeah, I know a few people said like maybe with sniping. I know it's very like slight situations where you kind of like need to really flick fast, like up to the right or something. I think it's something like Wacky Jackie said, like he doesn't want to increase his burst sense because he thinks it affects his like flicking. But I don't think you ever really do that in PUBG. I mean, it's very rare that you start like flicking, and if you can really get used to that burst sense, like you're gonna be fine anyway. That's the only thing that I've heard. But for me, I think it's fine. Like I really think just get used to it.
Makes sense. Snow has, let's say, the final question on the day. Are you guys doing anything special in order to get better communication or comms in game and teamwork?
So this is a question that you know you get sort of asked a lot. Pro player, like how can I improve my team? How can I improve teamwork, comms, etc. And it's a hard question. It really takes a lot of self-discipline in yourself, because team comms are your comms, basically. If your comms are better, then obviously your team comms are better, and it really takes everyone in general to work on it. It's something that you can always improve on, so everyone constantly has to be working on it. And a lot of mixes and with people that you don't really know helps a lot, from obviously different countries and how they speak, and learning that is super good. But on the teamwork side, it's really just you got to play together. You got to play together. You got to learn each other. You got to learn how to synergize in certain situations, and really you got to experience together certain situations that maybe you haven't experienced before. If you're all getting naded, if it's a hard shift away from you, just experiencing that in a team is going to build your teamwork up.
Do you feel that it's easier to communicate? Like, do you feel like you synergize and play better together when you sit together, like on LAN events, or does it not matter as if you were just online?
With former teams, I feel like having that LAN it helps a pretty decent amount. Obviously, it adds pressure being on LAN, but just being able to look at someone and they can see, all right, you're not mad at them. Because online sometimes it comes across that you're mad, but you're not mad. Just being able to see that someone's face and just realize that they're not trying to be an arse basically, and they're just trying to help you is a big thing. But I mean, at the higher end of stuff, and if you find teammates that suit you, that doesn't really happen anyway. So
makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. I think communication is something that I think you can maybe practice, but it's just over time. The longer you play with a team, the more situations you get in, the better it's gonna get. Like communication is just something that you've just got to play with a team for a long period of time, and it will always get better. There's obviously like slight little practices you can do, making sure you're all on the same page of like how you call out a certain spot or a compound, because especially when you join a new team, you might, for example, if you're like an EU player who joins like an NA team, they might have different comms for a certain area. Yeah. And that's something you need to like get on the same page like instantly, because if you make a call that is what you normally call and then they have no idea and it's just like mid-game, like a mid-tournament game, like it could get like really hectic.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing I can think of communication that you can kind of work on. But yeah, it's something that you just get over time, really.
Makes sense. I think that's kind of gonna round things off. It was a pleasure having you guys here. Glad that you guys wanted to join in with such short notice. I hope that
appreciate the invite.
Yeah, I hope that the guys out there in the chat learned something, or at least heard something that they thought was interesting. And I hope that you guys, maybe who knows, despite you guys knowing each other pretty well, maybe you got some insights on each other. So whenever you meet next time you play, they'll be like, now I know exactly what he's gonna do. Just throw an 80 charges faces. That's gonna be the strategy, right? No, but honestly, thank you so much for tuning in to all the viewers, and again, Luke and Michael, thank you so much for joining in. Good luck in your respective leagues. I hope to see you do well, as you always do. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you very much.